Hey everybody, welcome to another video, another week, another video, and it's going to be a fun one today as a change of pace. But before we get to it, I needed to hop on here real quick because there's something I just wanted to respond to and encourage people on something. As many of you know, if you've been watching the videos, that Michelle and I became owners of a family property that had been in severe disrepair for almost 20 years and completely hoarded, top to bottom, side to side, front to back. And it's been very stressful, and it's been quite a journey to move through. And if you've watched the previous videos, then you've seen what some of that is like. I mean, we have lots of laughs and lots of joy, and we're enjoying the process. But we received a letter in the mail a couple days ago, and I wanted to share it with you all. And it's a letter from our HOA. Now, for some of the more seasoned audiences out there, uh, I was tempted to go Alice's Restaurant on this letter. As you can see, there's pictures and red circles and descriptions and everything else. But the reason that I'm sharing it on here is because this letter was from our HOA management company. And it brought up some concerns that neighbors had about the upkeep of our home. Um, and it says at the beginning of the letter here, it says, the homeowners association is committed to help protect and preserve the overall environment of our community. One of the tasks of the homeowners association is to do on-site inspections of the residential community and to respond to resident concerns. In keeping with this commitment, the following has been noted. And then they cite a newspaper delivery mailbox that had fallen and was buried in deep overgrowth and everything. And we removed it right away. Thanks for noticing that. But the other thing is down in the corner, I'll point it out here. See that little blue square right there? That's a tarp covering a hole in the roof. When we took ownership of the property, we knew that there was a lot of real bad damage. And one of the worst areas was the roof. There were compromises to the roof. There was water damage that was leaking in every time it rained. And so it was something we tried to address before we took ownership of it, but there were a lot of challenges. I'll leave it at that on trying to get commitments to do things that were needed in and around and on the house. But as soon as we took ownership of it, we contacted roofing companies. We had people come out and give quotes and everything. And so we've got a job proposal already set to go. However, the estate is still not closed through the probate process. And even though we own the house, we have to wait to do any major work until we finish closing the estate. And that is determined through probate, through the courthouse. And so we've been working with them. Everything's great. We got timelines. Well, the contractors that we decided we wanted to go with when we do get around to repairing the home, out of the goodness of their heart, just went ahead and put that little blue tarp on the corner of the roof where the hole was so that the water damage would stop. And also, in order to get our new homeowners insurance, rather than the forced insurance that was in place before we took ownership, we had to ensure from a licensed contractor that the roof was watertight. And so, twofold, we had to get it done in order to get homeowners insurance. And then we also had to go ahead and we have to wait until the probate process finishes. So again, back to the opening line. An important thing that I need to add. They said, please reply to this letter and advise when these items will be addressed no later than Friday. Failure to respond may result in enforcement efforts that may result in fines. That's a pretty stressful and anxiety-producing thing to read, especially when we're already under so much stress to try and get through what we're getting through here. But again, going back to the opening line of the letter, the Homeowners Association is committed to help protect and preserve the overall environment of your community. Now, maybe it's just the way I was raised. Maybe I just grew up in a different time, a different era. I don't know. But to me, I think the best way to protect and preserve a community is by being neighborly. Everyone involved with the Homeowners Association, everyone on the mountain, as a matter of fact, we have a Facebook group, private group, just for residents of this mountain. Everyone has each other's phone numbers. Everybody can message on Facebook Messenger. The Homeowners Association committees and the management company all have numbers and addresses and everything else. No one ever contacted us or approached us or knocked on the door or sent a message or anything, not until we got the letter with the pictures and the threats of fines. And I just don't think that that is a good first step if your goal is to protect and preserve a community. If you live in a neighborhood and you see that, someone's lawn hasn't been mowed in over a month, maybe instead of calling in enforcement and threats of fines, it's good to check in with them. So, maybe help mow their lawn. Maybe they have a health crisis going on, or, if there's been a loss in the family. I know where I grew up, the neighborhood rallied together and would take turns making meals for a family when they lost a matriarch or a patriarch in their household, or God forbid, a child or anything. And people helped each other out. If someone was sick, other neighbors would help, shovel the snow or mow the lawn. And it was a very tight community that, even though I don't live in that neighborhood anymore, I still have very close, meaningful relationships with those neighbors. And so I get it. I understand how HOAs work. We're walking the process. Everyone's been very friendly in the process and the communications and everything. However, the homeowner association management company acknowledged in follow-up conversations that someone in the neighborhood had complained to an oversight committee that the tarp has just been sitting there for several months. That's a quote. It hasn't been there for several months. It's been there for several weeks. And so getting something like this with the stress that's already there, and then having to take the time to go through the process, wondering if they're going to accept our explanations of being in probate, and we already have a quote from a contractor, hoping they're going to accept that, or are they going to decide, well, we're going to start putting fines on you, and we're going to start enforcing different things, and you must have it fixed. I don't really have much else to say other than the whole reason I brought it up and started the video today with this is to encourage people, if you're in a homeowners association or a residential community where there are enforcement guidelines and things like that, maybe the first contact is better to go ahead and talk to the people, check in, see what's going on, rather than having the very first communication be something like this. Anyway, we got a fun video for you today, and I just wanted to respond. This is part of the reality of what we're dealing with, and I said at the very beginning of this that I would be transparent and honest with you, and well, this is just another step in the process. Anyway, let's get to the video. Thanks for being here. Everybody, going to do something a little bit different with today's episode. At the very end of the last episode, I showed the little home arcade that I've built, and there was so much reaction to that and curiosity. I'll go ahead and I'll show you how I made my own little multi-cade type thing and how I've built out stuff, because actually you can create something that's really fun for pretty low cost at home. So if you're wondering how things are going with the house and the decluttering and dehoarding and all that kind of stuff, at the end of the video I'll show you a little update of where we're at. We've made a lot of progress this week, but as a little break in the routine, and because people were so curious and so jazzed about that home arcade setup, figure I'll just go ahead and show you a little bit today how I set it up and how you can do one at your own house too, where you can have classic 80s fun for low cost. All right, we're about to take a walk into the brand new game room that's almost finished. We've almost got it completed, but it is sure nice to open up another area of the house where we can host family and friends, and we're really getting excited about it, but let's show it to you. All right, let's show you the arcade game room. Like I said, not quite finished yet. That is all audio, video, and computer equipment, by the way, in front of the fireplace. Here you go. We look forward to hosting friends and family here and having great hangout nights. And like I said, it's almost finished, not quite yet. Of course, there's my little shadow. And I'm not going to get into how I restored and fixed up these arcade cabinets. I'm specifically going to focus on this one right here. This is my MacGyvered home multi-cade that you can do yourself and very inexpensively. And I'm going to show you how, step by step. All right, so let me start off by telling you exactly what this is. It's an old CRT TV. Some of the more seasoned folks in the audience will recognize the big heavy tube TV. And then these are a bunch of what's called plug and plays. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace and different places pretty cheap. And if you're a Gen Xer, you probably have some of these sitting around in the house somewhere in some box. Then I have what's called an Atari Flashback. It's also a plug and play. And then this right here is an RCA switch box, which you can get off of Amazon, but I had this one sitting around in an old box. Pretty much everything here I had sitting around in various boxes. And as we've been going through things, been finding different pieces and then assembling this. So the concept, what this is with the plug and plays, I've got 4 different ones here, and they all plug into the switch box. The switch box then plugs into the TV. And before I show you how to set it up and some examples of how you can get stuff on Marketplace and things, I wanted to show you what it has. So on here, you've got pole position. It's a classic that many people, now that I started, I'm going to have to play it. And with this plug and play, you have your gas, and your bottom button on here switches gears to high gear, and you steer by turning the joystick. Anyway, classic gaming at its best. Let me go ahead and hit a car here and blow up. All right, there we go. Then I can reset it back to the menu with a little button on the front. I also have on this one Xevious, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, and Mappy. And so all of these, they are the old arcade games. And the joystick, the plug and plays, this is the Miss Pac-Man plug and play. And I'll overlay some stuff on here that shows, man, I'm a little bit rusty. All right, so then if you want to go to the next plug and play, just go ahead and switch. This one is the Pac-Man plug and play. It's got Pac-Man, Galaxian, Rally X, Dig Dug, and Bosconian. So Dig Dug, there's a classic. And I wonder how many people are hearing this and like the nostalgia of just hearing the sounds. I will tell you, we've already played in this arcade with everything going all at once, and it is like a time warp. It brings you right back to the 80s, at least for me and Michelle. And we think for a lot of our guests too. Anyway, I'll go ahead and die here. All right, there we go. Same thing here. There's a reset button to take you back to the main menu. All right, you've had enough fun with that stuff. You want to switch over to the next one. Click the third button. This one is an Activision, so it's Atari age games. Hello, Peach. It never stops. So on here, you've got all kinds of classic Atari games. Here's Atlantis. Anyway, so also reset button where you can go back to the main menu. And these are all games that came out in the early 80s. Also Pitfall. A lot of people remember Pitfall. All right. Lots of great classics. River Raid, one of my favorites. So it just brings back so much memories. And what's funny is the kids love playing with this too, our kids. They probably have as much fun with some of the arcade games and like old Atari things as they do any of the more modern gaming systems. But we go ahead, switch to 4. This is the Atari Flashback 7. They have a lot of them. I think they're up to like 12 or 13, and they have gold editions and everything else. But this one I like because the 7, I like the game selections on it, but it has wireless joysticks. So they look like the classic ones. They're a little bit more flimsy than the actual Atari stuff. But you have on here all kinds of different games you can go through. Classic Asteroids. And but this is the one that has like, I think 110 games on it or something. Go back to the menu. But the reason I put this one on here instead of other ones is, man, there's so many games. I'm almost tempted to go and read through it, but you can go on Google. You can search the different Atari Flashback games and which ones they have on them. But this one, I picked up this plug and play for like $15 or something on Marketplace. But the one that I really like on here is the Frogger game. And this to me is quintessential arcade. And what's funny is that I don't remember the Atari 2600 version of this game looking like this. This looks more like the actual arcade game to me. So I'm not sure if some of the flashback stuff has some of the more authentic arcade stuff and not just the Atari 2600 versions. But you can let me know. I could go play the actual Frogger cartridge on my Atari 2600 that I still have set up downstairs in our temporary game room that we had. Yes, Peach, I know you're there. I love you too. Anyway, so again, this is one of the most lovey-dovey cats you'll ever meet. Hi. You giving some hugs? You want to say hi to everybody? Get your motor running? Okay. Anyway, so that's just a little run through of the kind of game selection you have on here. So between all of them, I've probably got about 140 games. And let me go ahead and run through the costs now and show you what it would cost if I were to build this setup right now, today, pulling up Facebook Marketplace. Let's see what I can find. All right, let's take a look here. All right, TVs, free. All right, so you may even have one still sitting around, but you can hold out and you can find different sizes for free. And the next thing up, an RCA box, you see on here anywhere from $1 to $20, but you can search on Amazon as well. Get it based on how many games you want to use a plug and play for. The plug and plays, $15 to $30 is what you're going to usually see on the plug and plays on Marketplace, depending on what you want to do. The ones I have are more like the $10, $15 range. But if you want to go with something like a mini NES system like you see here, you're looking at $30, $35. But those are going to have a lot more games and be more advanced, more modern. And then a drop leaf table, and I do suggest a drop leaf table. It works out really well, size and shape and everything. You can see prices here, but hold out for something free. All right, so there you go. Not very expensive at all. And the thing is, there's probably a lot of you that have some of these pieces sitting around in the house somewhere, and you wouldn't have to go and buy everything. And you don't have to get this many to start off with. Now, of course, you could go more than this. They have RCA switch boxes that have even more channels than this. And I have other systems that I might want to put on, but the way I've approached my arcade, since I'm modding and restoring a lot of these myself, this has the most games of any of the things that I've created in the arcade here that I've built. And because it's a sit down and it's got the old TV and the nostalgia of it, I went ahead and like I said, there's like 140 games on this sitting station. And you have the ability for somebody to pull up a stool and play 2-player on the Atari games. But on the back of here, you just have these RCA switches. They're simple old RCA, video and audio. Each one of the plug and plays carry one of these. And then you have the outputs, which has got three channels because the TV I'm using has stereo output. And so this runs to the back of the TV. The old TVs have RCA inputs and cable inputs, but the RCA is what you're going to look for. Now, some of the old TVs have RCA inputs on the front. You wouldn't even have to mess with going around the back of it. But I've got the 4 channels here: first channel, second channel, third, fourth. And you have the ability to use switch boxes like this for like modded Wii's and things that can do more comprehensive, more modern gaming on them with HD output. But I like the classic stuff. So before I go ahead and get assaulted by Peach here again, thank you for tuning in. It's a short video this week, but nice little change of pace. I'm going to go ahead and show you the updates now on how things are coming in the house. We are making progress since re-hoarding the house, emptying a storage unit, and we're going through things. But before I do that, though, I've got to go ahead and play some Space Invaders. So here in the Bird Cafe, it's pretty much cleared out. This is actually all fishing stuff right here because I am set to be able to fish anywhere up and down the eastern seaboard, freshwater, saltwater, 4 seasons a year. I am a licensed guide, but I do like to fish everywhere. So this stuff I'm going to consolidate down, and I'm probably going to sell off a bunch of stuff. We're getting close to the point of selling things. So, of course, Itzy's got to go ahead and photobomb, get in the shot. And going into this room here, that is the pile of stuff that still has to be gone through from here on the first floor. If you saw the last video, the pile of things that weren't ours pretty much filled this whole front room. So we're getting there. We're making good progress. And coming in here into the master bedroom suite, still, this is probably the epicenter of where things are still at their worst. But this is all photo albums. All of this right here, it's all photo albums, and then stuff that still needs to be gone through. But so much progress has been made. If you saw the earlier video, so much stuff. You couldn't even walk in here. It was piled as high as that counter. And all the shower tub areas were completely filled. This was all like cat litter, encrusted deep. And so that's still a big pile. We still got a lot to do, but oh my goodness, so much progress has been made, but still so far to go. All right, come on out of here, Itzy. And here's my outdoor workstation. I actually just finished recording an interview I was on the Veronica Edwards show. It will be airing sometime. I'll let folks know when that is. But this is my outdoor workspace right here. Very, very lovely. One more. By the way, if you like the content, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you along for the journey. Oh, geez.